What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at this drawing here and trying to determine the best way to draw this with the dimensions that are given. This one can be a little tricky depending on how you approach it. So like always, just try and find an area that has the most dimensions given and use that as your starting point. There's a few angles in here that a few lines here that don't have angles specified, but you do have the XY coordinates of the starting and the end points. So when you have the starting and end points of a line, you don't have to have the angle called out. So yeah, let's get started. So when I look at this, I immediately see this is where I want to start, down here on this horizontal, this bottom horizontal line. So first things first, I'll get this line drawn first, and it's at a dimension of 73 inches. So I'll just draw a line at 73 inches. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to draw a short little line down like that, mark the end point of this one, because I'm going to also go ahead and draw this center line in as a reference for the time being. And we know that one is 68.01 inches long. I'll get that drawn. Okay, so now that that's done, this is the next line we need to draw. So it is given that it's 45 degrees, okay? So first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and draw this line and do the angle command at 45 degrees. Since from left to right, it's going uphill, or it's got a positive incline. So it'll be just 45 degrees, not negative 45. Then I'll just draw it to whatever length, just longer than it needs to be, because I'll be trimming it up here in a second. So to get the end point of this, we can do it two different ways. We can use this dimension, or we can use this dimension. And I'll use this one of 24.04 from this area here, which is why I drew this here. So we'll go over 24.04, then just go straight up. And where these two lines intersect, that's the intersection point there, or the end point of that line. So I'll trim those up, get rid of these since they're no longer needed. And then for the next one, for this line here, there's not an angle provided, but we have the start point because it's already drawn right there. So all we need to do is identify where this end point is right here. Well, we have the X and the Y coordinates of that point right here. So to get the X coordinate for that, we're going to add these two together. We need both of these. So I'll come over 24.04, and then I'll do another one of 16.42, and then go straight up from there. So now to get this coordinate, we know it's going to be 4.4 inches from the end point of this. So what I'll do is I'll just come over from this line and go up 4.40 inches to there. And that's our start point and our end point. Then that one's done. So now we have this portion here completed. So this next line, we can get it started, but there's really not an easy way to determine this endpoint yet until we start back from where we started and start going the other direction. So what I'm going to do is draw this line here. There's not an angle provided, but we know that this line is parallel to this line. We know this line is at 25 degrees, so we can safely draw a line at 25 degrees. But this one's going to be at negative 25 degrees because going from left to right, it's going downhill. So that tells us it needs to be a negative 25 degrees. And then I'll just draw a random line length there. And we'll come back to that in a minute to determine its endpoint. So now I'm going to move these over a little bit just to give us a little bit more room. And we're going to start on this line here. So this line has an angle given of 59 degrees, and we know the end point is going to be 29.25 inches tall. So first things first, we're going to draw this angle at, again, negative 59 degrees, because from left to right, it's going downhill. And I'll just pick a random point up there. So now we know the Y coordinate of this line here, the end point is going to be 29.25. So I'll come off of here and go up 29.25, then come across, And that intersection point there is the endpoint of your line. The next line, probably the easiest line on here, it's a horizontal line at 20 inches. We'll just draw a line at 20 inches. And then from there, you have this line here. There's no angle provided, but it does give us an X coordinate for the endpoint, okay? So there's a couple different ways you can do this. What I'm gonna do is start at this point here and draw a line at 26.96 this way, and then just go straight up, and where these lines intersect will be the endpoint. So I'm just gonna draw the line at 26.96, then go straight up. And you know right here, that's gonna be the endpoint of this line here. But we still don't have this one drawn yet. So if you delete the two lines you use for reference, what's left is an endpoint here and an endpoint there. And when you connect those two, you got that one. So you can see with this one, there wasn't an angle provided, and you only had an obvious X dimension here. But because of everything else that was drawn, you were able to piece that together. So next we're going to do these circles. It's pretty simple. Both of these circles have a vertical height of 15.03. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line up at 15.03. You just go straight across. And we know that this is the line that those center points are going to be located on horizontally, or x-axis wise. I'm sorry, y-axis. So now we want to get the x coordinates. So we know the first one is going to be 19 inches from this corner, and the second one's going to be 35. So I'll come down and do one at 19. Then another one at 35. It says here the dimensions of these circles have a diameter. That's the diameter symbol of 10 inches. So I'll do the circle command, tell it to do a diameter of 10. Then I'll just copy that one over. Yeah, and there's your circles. Pretty easy on that one, huh? All right, so this part, it's a little bit trickier, but not too bad. You just got to break it down. So I'm going to go ahead and select my center line layer that I created. We're going to go ahead and draw this line and this line, because we're actually going to need these center lines as reference for drawing this slot here. So we'll go ahead and draw this one at the 68.01 inches. And then 25-degree angle. Again, from left to right is going downhill, so it's going to be negative 25 degrees. And we'll just draw it all the way out. It'll be trimmed up here later, so it doesn't matter how far you draw it. Okay, so the next portion of this slot is we need to identify the center points of each of these circles. So we can see here from this point here, you have one center point at 90.93. Then we have the second one at 20.33. So what we need to do is use a perpendicular reference line and just come up any distance you would like. Then from there, another perpendicular line that will be 90.93. And then come off of that perpendicular, and you can get a perpendicular snap point. And there's the center point of the first one. Do another extension off of that at 20.33 and come down, and boom, there's your second center point. So from there, this dimension here says these circles have a diameter of 14 or a radius of 7. So you can draw your circle however you want. So I'll do it with a radius of 7. Change that layer. Then we'll just copy it over. And there's the two circles. So basically that's going to be the two sides of the circles. So because we drew these reference lines, we know if you come off of those perpendicular, it's going to snap to the tangents, each of the circles. So that one's easy. And then from there, you can use the mirror command and use this center line as your reference for your mirror. And you're done with that. All you need to do now is use the trim command. So hit TR space and then space one more time. You can trim all this excess out. So this guy will go ahead and just move down here out of the way. So now we want to go back to our center line layer, and we're going to do the center marks for all the circles on here. So that's going to be the CM command for center mark. We'll click that circle, then these two circles here. Now you notice that these two circles, the crosshairs or the tick marks, aren't aligned with the circle. They need to be rotated. So because we know that this is at a 25-degree angle, we know that these need to be rotated at a 25-degree angle or a negative 25-degree angle. I did that wrong. I did that at 25. So negative 25. Same thing with this one. There you go. So we'll just clean it up a little bit. We'll extend that line to match. Then I'll bring this line up to match that. And we'll zoom out. Let's take a look at what we have. Yeah, everything looks good. So yeah, I think we're done. So yeah, if you guys found this video helpful, if y'all could, man, smash that like button, hit subscribe, really help the channel push these videos out to other people looking for the same type of information. So yeah, thanks for joining.